All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're like me, you probably often, as you tinker around with gear and are just a big loser that doesn't actually shoot photos as much as you should, you probably often think to yourself, how much of a benefit would it be if I had quote-unquote some of the best versus something more affordable? In this particular case, we're doing a little Fuji versus Leica shootout, and more specifically, we're doing this, the Leica SL2s with the 50mm Summicron F2 SL version, which some have said it's a rebadged version of the Lumix f1.8 50mm lens, I don't know, versus Fuji's newest, latest and greatest APS-C lenses, in this case the 33mm f1.4 lens. There it goes, it's not focusing. 50mm f1.4, 33mm f1.4 lens, which is essentially the equivalent of that 50mm Leica SL lens. So 33 1.4, if you do that in full frame turns, is about 50 millimeters and about f2-ish, f2.1-ish, if you do those kind of conversions. Now, I know people freak out about those, but just in terms of depth of field, in field of view, that's what it is. I understand there's other differences. And so what I did is I went out and I shot some random crap in my yard, and I want to do a comparison. And so we're going to head over to my computer screen, do a little screen recording, dump me in the bottom corner, and we're going to look at a few images in Capture One side by side to see what really are the differences between the two. So let's head over there. This is official right here. All right, let's get the screen recording going. Okay, you guys are looking at my screen right here. You see a picture of my face, and you'll see on the right-hand side I have RAW files and DNG files. Again, shot with the 33-1.4 Fuji lens and the 50 f2 SL lens. And I just did a couple random shots around the house. And so what I'm going to do is compare these side by side and do some pixel peeping by comparing both. And so right now you've got the Fuji file up. What I've done is I've gone in and changed these profiles away from the generic Fuji profile and put them to the film extra shadow that's built into Capture One, because if you import Fuji files just as they are, they end up being the profile you shot them in, so nostalgic negative or whatever. So let's select both these together, and you're going to see the comparison real quick here of the DNG file versus the RAW file. Again, the DNG file has been put on film extra shadow as well, and I'll do that for all these going through. All I want to do as I click into these is click into eye focus. Now for this photo, I took the camera, held it out in front of me, let the eye detection pick up my face, and then shot the photo. And so this would be a testament to its subject recognition and also its ability to focus and that kind of stuff without looking at the screen. As you can see here, my eye is tack sharp. This is actually kind of disgusting, but tack sharp on the Fuji. And if you click into the Leica, similarly, tack sharp. You can tell I had a rough night last night. Had a little bit too much wine watching the Boston versus Florida Panthers Game 7 overtime. Now, what you can tell here, obviously, you've got more of a yellowish, greenish hue to the Leica file and more of a red here to the Fuji file. Again, colors, you know, like if I were to go in here and change some of this stuff like I do, I have some profiles and maybe a portrait profile to both, and I would mess with them. You'd get different colors. So I don't know if I want to even go into that too much, but just to play around with them a bit, you know, like you can see that you can do a whole bunch with the shadows and a whole bunch of different stuff there. Same thing with this one, you know, bring the shadows up, change it to the Kodak preset that I have. Anyways, I'm not going to do a whole bunch of that right now, but you can see the colors are definitely different. And if you were to match the two, you'd have to bring some of that redness and bring more of a warm tone to the Fuji file, and the opposite's true for the Leica file. All right, let's unselect these. Let's go to this Dinosaur that I have here. Same concept, the XH2s, spoiler alert, is in film extra shadow. Same with the SL2s is in extra shadow. What's interesting, shooting this at 1.4, I get 1/640th of a second to get base ISO, and on the Leica SL2s, I shot it at 1/250th at f2 to get base ISO, or close to base ISO. Same here. Let's click into the focus on the Dinosaur here, and let's click into the focus here. I mean, hard pressed really to get a difference. It seems like maybe the focus point, oops, was a little different on the two, but I mean, I couldn't tell you guys the difference in the two. Even the depth of field is the same, like we expected with the lenses and that kind of stuff in the aperture. You know, a bit of a difference maybe in color on the reds and the clay pot, but for all intents and purposes, this look pretty much the same. Let's go in next to this bird, on this bird bath here that I shot. Now here you can definitely see some of the white balance and color tone difference. Obviously I wasn't perfectly the same on the frame, but I will tell you this, on the Leica file, because this head's all black and it lacked a lot of contrast, I had to kind of like pump the autofocus a few times on the Leica to get it to focus, but I did. And you can see the focus here on the bird. I put the focus box right here on the bird's eye. And it's hard to tell, I mean, because the colors, here, I forgot to change this one back. There you go. Extra shadow. Boom. It should be the same now. You can see the color difference is big time in terms of warming it up or whatever, and a bit more contrast on the Leica file. So if I were to increase contrast a little bit and maybe warm it up, would I get close? Yeah, maybe. So it's just the difference in white balancing between the two images, maybe a bit more, it seems like. And I would say between looking at these two, they both have an equal amount of detail. You know, and you could obviously do some things to sharpen it up. They both are incredibly sharp. So that's what I guess I'm trying to say is of the three, you get color differences, but sharpness, detail, even depth of field, I don't notice a big difference here. Okay, so then let's go to this shot here. Side of my house, we got this little, I don't know what they call this thing. It's like the rain goes down it, whatever. My wife's into it. And I'm going to switch these all to the extra shadow profile just to kind of keep consistency amongst the conversation. You notice the same thing here. The Fuji file on the left seems to want to be more blue and a little cooler versus the Leica file being a bit warmer. And so, you know, it's a similar thing where you probably have to go in and warm this up quite a, oops, undo that, wrong file selected. I screwed it up, sorry guys. Yeah, let's go back to this file. Boom. Yeah, bring it up. Maybe it's something close, like right here. And what I was focusing on was this guy right here, this little thing. I had, again, because the contrast was not so much on the Leica, I had to set it to a spot autofocus versus like an area. And if you zoom way in, again, pixel peeping, if it even matters. It's like indistinguishable. You get a bit difference in the colors, and I think that's it. And the other thing to notice too is, right, look at the fall off, look at the transition from the side of the house here, which is generally in focus, to the house in the background. No difference. No difference. Shutter speed's different again. I kept the ISO as low as I could. So 1/1000th on the Leica and 1/3200th on the Fuji, which is interesting. Maybe there's a bit difference in exposure, if I were to bring this up. But yeah, it's interesting because if you consider the size and weight of the Leica file or the Leica camera, and you consider the output, if you get the right lenses for the APS-C, and I could even argue maybe Micro Four Thirds, you can get very similar looks to a point with the crop sensor camera versus a full frame sensor. Now, there might be some differences depending on the camera in terms of dynamic range or whatever, but my experience with Fuji is that there's quite a bit of dynamic range you can bring back in all these, right? I mean, if you guys see here, I'm just bringing these up. I mean, they both have a ton of latitude. Go crush the highlights, go raise the shadows. You end up pretty similar. I don't think there's a big difference specifically between Capture One and Leica. And people complain about sharpness or like details. With Capture One on Fujifilm, I don't really have a problem. And so I just wanted to show you guys that a crop sensor with a good piece of glass on it can match to a point full frame cameras with a good piece of glass. Now clearly if I were to put a 51.4 on the Leica, you start noticing more differences there. Or if I were to grab maybe like the 50 Apo Summicron SL lens, maybe you'd notice some differences there as well. But for 99.9% of us, if you can get a similar look, you have to think about other things in terms of like ergonomics, size and weight, autofocus capabilities, video capabilities, flip screen, no flip screen, all those types of things as go into your decision-making process, because in the end of the day, the image quality is going to be pretty darn close, if not equivalent for 99% of us. So anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. As I tinker around and look at these things, I like to do the same thing for you guys and show it to you. So I will put these files up at the end of the video here, and you guys can look at them in a bigger on the YouTube screen, on your phone screen, whatever you're watching it on. And I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.
While another one closes. That's how it always goes. One heart's breaking while another one is mending. It's all in the ebb and flow. If I had to, I could go it alone, but I don't ever need to, because I have a home somewhere.